Latif, welcome in Baudelaire.
Wow, it kind of just looks like everything else.
My name is Latif Nasser. I'm a science reporter.
Oh, wow.
And this is a show about the astonishing connections all around us. Connections between you, me, and our world that'll make you see that world in a whole new way.
Welcome to this week's edition of Trailblazers, where we interview humans in our community who are doing outstanding things. This week's guest spent 4 years spelunking, in layperson's term, that just means exploring caves, and interviewing nonagenarians, which is people in their 90s, to get his Ph.D. in the history of science at Harvard University. He's the host of the Netflix show Connected, the hidden science of everything, and has a successful podcast, RadioLab, which he hosts. He's also the finalist for the 2021 Dupont Columbia Award for his podcast, The Other Latif. I know I learn something every single time I talk to him, and lucky for me, that's very often. I'd like to welcome my brother, Latif Nasser, who joins us now from his home studio in Los Angeles. This is probably the most excited I've ever been for an interview because this is kind of like a conversation that we do on the phone all the time.
Yeah. And yet we've never, both of us being journalists, we've never interviewed, each has never interviewed the other.
So welcome, and we're also surprising our parents. They have no idea we're doing this, so they're watching this for the very first time. Hi, Mom and Dad.
Hi, Mom and Dad.
So Latif, let's talk about, first, let's start. For people who don't know who you are or much about what you've done, this has been such a crazy year for you, in a good way. I mean, 2020 has been difficult for a lot of people, and while it has been, you have also seen the birth of a couple of things. I'll put it that way. You've said, this has been the weirdest time on top of the weirdest time for you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, just personally, I just moved into a new house, which is like 2 days ago. We had my wife and I had our second baby. During in a hospital, which was a very extraordinary thing. At this pandemic moment. But besides that, I released 2 series, one audio, one TV, that I had been working on for years, both of them. One is through the show that I work for at New York Public Radio called RadioLab, but the miniseries was called The Other Latif. Which was a kind of a deep dive into kind of the closest I've ever gotten to doing kind of real investigative journalism, trying to find out the story of an extraordinary story of a man with my same name who is a detainee at Guantanamo Bay. And then later in the year, that was in the spring, and then in the summer, I released a 6-part series, science docu-series on Netflix called Connected, which is kind of a science travel series. I joke that it's if Bill Nye and Anthony Bourdain had an awkward Muslim baby. But that's kind of, so those were sort of 2 projects I've been working on for a long time, and they both came out this year. And I'm really proud to have them out there, and both of which I would show Farah advanced clips on, and she would give me feedback.
Yeah, we're so proud that these are out because I know you've poured your heart and soul into this. Let's start though with the Netflix series Connected. How did that come about? How did you come up with the idea? Were you approached about it? How does a kid from Mississauga get a Netflix series?
Well, I was just keeping my head down and minding my own business. I was doing my kind of day job, which is as a radio reporter, science journalist. And I had done in the past a few TED Talks, and the folks at this production company, which actually happened to be Anthony Bourdain's production company, have done kind of a really a stellar list of shows in the past that I've been a fan of. And then they just randomly approached me and said, hey, we want to do something new, something sciencey, and we want to do it with you. And their idea was to take the kind of standard science show. I think we all think of like the science show and we think of Bill Nye in a studio doing experiments and that kind of thing, and take that and kind of explode it out. And instead of being in that studio or in that laboratory space, like just go all over the world and actually look over the shoulders of scientists in all kinds of remote places while they're doing the science that this kind of cutting edge, exciting science, and kind of learn it with them as they're learning it, and make a new show that way. So they kind of came to me with that idea. And then I sort of flipped it back on them with the idea that, hey, maybe what if we do that? But if we're going out to these far-flung locations and we're talking to these scientists, it could feel very remote. It could feel very far away for the average viewer. And the fun would be, can we find a way to take these science stories that are, in the middle of nowhere and like hopscotch our way back and connect them to viewers, Netflix viewers who are just sitting at home on their couch and maybe have never thought of or wondered about any of these things we're talking about. And so that's kind of the idea of the show. It's sort of jumping all over the world, jumping backwards and forwards in time, on a theme, but basically like connecting you and the breaths you take and the food you eat and the cells in your body and the poop you poop to all this science that's going on, this really cutting edge, interesting science that's going on all around the world.
Yeah. The Poop You Poop isn't actually an episode that Dad didn't originally want to watch, but he did watch it eventually.
It is episode number 2, which, right.
Right, of course it is. It's incredible that it came out because you're talking about being connected, and COVID-19 has connected all of us, obviously. So the fact that it came out now in that time, and also a time where in some parts of the world we're more divided than we ever have been. Talk to me about that and why this show is especially important at this time.
Yeah, it's funny, like when we were making it, because obviously we were making it traveling all over the world before COVID. And, I had this feeling like, oh, okay, so it's this, and it's a show with an argument, right? That everything is connected. Things that you could never even conceive are connected, those are connected too. And that felt like a fun, surprising idea to make a show about. And then COVID happened and it felt like that wasn't fun or surprising. It was neither of those things. It was actually kind of scary, and it was obvious because we were all so worried and fixated and frightened about, what if someone picks up this thing and when they're, stocking the grocery store shelf and I pick up this idea, we're all connected. It seemed obvious. And I was actually kind of worried. I was like, oh no, this is like the exactly worst time to release this show. And what happened was kind of surprised me in a nice way, which is that I think the show came out during the pandemic, and people watched it, and I think they found a lot. It's not just about the stuff that's connecting us and the surprising stuff that's connecting us. It's about the kind of beautiful and poetic stuff that connects us, and the stuff that no matter who you are, because we're all breathing that same oxygen, because we're all, pooping into that same sewer system, we are connected. We are connected in these deep ways that we don't even perceive. And I think for people to get that, to hear that message, and for it to be a message of things that connect us that aren't trying to kill us, I think it sort of buoyed a lot of people, and it made people feel it reminded people who had, in a lot of cases been under stay-at-home orders or quarantining in their homes or things like that, we are all connected actually, and it's not all for the worse.
Let's go back to the beginning and talk about, I guess, your journey or our journey, because I was with you right at the beginning. But maybe we start first at your PhD at Harvard and in the history of science. I remember Mom and Dad, when you told them that's what your PhD was going to be in, they were like, what is he going to do with that? So talk to me about your interest in science and how you got there and doing a PhD in a subject that is not very common.
Well, even before that, I should say, like the look on Mom and Dad's faces when I told them I was doing a Harvard PhD in a weird, obscure subject, they were like, okay, that's fine. But rewind back, 4 years earlier when I told them I was going to go to college and study theater, but actually the kind of amazing thing was that they were so cool with it. The thing that our parents, the thing that they did, I mean, they're the sort of immigrant stereotypical, whether it's a smiley or just immigrant, you got to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, like da. That was not true in our family at all. Like my parents, I would say I want to do theater, or Farah would say I want to do journalism, and that didn't faze them at all, ever.
The other thing that I think you and I have talked about before together is how our parents never told us to kind of go into the room and be the smartest person in the room. Like Dad always said, what was his phrase? He said, ask questions till somebody's matoduketo, right? Like go till their head hurts. Keep asking questions, learn from people. Like he and Mom saw people as almost like library books, right? Like everybody's a wealth of information in their own lives, in their own perspective, in their own experience. So tell me about how, because you have this, I mean, I'm curious, but you're even more curious. Like you were curious about everything. How did that develop in you? And how did Mom and Dad have an influence on that?
Yeah, I mean, like that's true. I feel like we took that, I feel like sometimes like Mom and Dad would tell us things and then we would take it to, like, we took it too literally, like Mom and Dad saying like stay in school, and then I stayed, I really stayed in school for way longer than was comfortable for anybody. And then yeah, this idea like ask questions until their head hurts. Like that was a thing that our dad would say. Like there's always more questions. There's always more things you can learn from everybody, and not just the fancy scientists at the fancy. Everybody, and I really do think that is a thing. Like there's another thing that I've been thinking about a lot recently too, which is because now I'm like thinking about my kids and about your kids. Like this feeling when we were little, like this idea, I remember so many days, like just, and this was before we had like a computer with internet or anything like that. And you'd be like sitting around all day and you'd be like, I'm bored. And and I don't remember who it was, whether it was Mom or Dad or you or somebody else. But this idea that it's like, oh, if you're bored, like the world is not a boring place. Like if you're bored, that's because you're boring. Like there's something out there exciting going on right now. And if you're bored, like there's no one to blame but yourself for that. And that feeling that like everything, even the things that you suspect are boring, are actually, if you look at them from the right angle, if you unlock them with the right question, they're actually really interesting. And there's a lot going on. And for me, it's like, if I'm interested in something, I'll ask questions about it. If I'm bored with something, I'll ask more questions about it, because it's just a matter of finding that angle to see, oh, wait a second, this thing actually really is interesting after all.
Okay, let's focus now on your travel for Connected, because I think that is really interesting. I mean, you were well traveled before the series, but you had this unique opportunity that most people don't get. I mean, you traveled all over the world to places you never thought you'd go. What was that like, and what was the most maybe impactful place that you visited in your journey?
Yeah, it was an amazing opportunity that I still am sort of pinching myself that I got. And, we would pitch stories to Netflix, with this production company that I was working with. And the feedback that we'd get is, no, we need it more global. We're trying to appeal to a global audience, so you need to travel to at least 2 more countries to make this work. Like, and it was like, yeah, so it was just like adding on more and more and more like eye-popping locations all over the world. And so to get to actually go to these places, and because I was the one who sort of picked and pitched a lot of the stories with a team of producers, but I picked things that I really wanted to go see. Like I got to pick things that actually were genuinely interesting to me. And so, yeah, so I got to really like go to the Sahara and the middle of the Sahara, and then I would go to the middle of the Amazon rainforest, and I would go to, go in a hot air balloon over a volcano, and like I could just imagine things and then do them. And it was really a kind of a blessing, and actually now, after basically being indoors for the last year, it feels like a dream, a long ago dream. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience that I feel immensely lucky to have gotten.
You also traveled for the Other Latif, which you had been working on for so many years. And the place you went was Guantanamo Bay. How did mom and dad take that? And have you ever done anything in your career that you think has worried them a little bit or scared them?
They, in general, like, because they have that hands-off trust of me, and maybe because I'm a guy, I get more trust than you get. I think they have that hands-off trust on me, and I think that they weren't never scared. Like when I told them, and I think this audio is in the series where I call them up and I say, hey, I'm going to Guantanamo on the weekend, and they were like, for work? And like as if I was gonna be, or for fun, or as if I was like arrested and being taken there by force.
Hi, beta.
Hey.
Hello?
Are you both on different phones?
Yeah. Yeah, we are both on different lines. Why? What happened?
So on Sunday, I'm going to Guantanamo.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this Sunday.
Well, you can't go. Is it safe there?
Yeah. No, it's fine. Like I'm going as a media person. Like I gotten clearance and stuff.
If you say no, you still go, right?
No. You should go. This is a good opportunity.
Oh, I don't know, Latif. I don't like.
Okay. We'll pray for your safety. We'll pray for you.
Thank you, Dad.
No, I think they are worried. They're constantly worried about sort of the traveling I do, and even in Connected, like I had some sort of some experiences that were a little bit nerve-wracking. Some of which I told them about, and some of which I didn't. But
you probably don't even know about some of these, yeah.
Yeah, but they are really they are kind of they trust me, and I feel like and maybe it's just a thing because you led the way for me, but also because I think over years of doing so many stories and being careful, I've kind of built up that reservoir of trust.
Who would you say were your mentors that helped you create the path to where you are today?
I've had so many mentors. I've had so many good teachers. I've had so many good colleagues. I've had so many good friends and family members, and obviously our parents. But one thing I should feel like I'd be remiss without saying here is that I feel like we both were in a way raised by Kane. Like we were raised by a whole community of people who were looking out for us, who would critique our deliveries of Furmans and stuff, and like I think that actually, like, public speaking, that's what we both do now. You know, to have the courage to do that, to have the ability to do that, like, that's no small thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you talk about humility, and you're probably the most humble person I know, and so you probably don't recognize this in yourself, but you're a trailblazer. And
no, I'm more humble.
But you know, you said that this your show is like, you know, Anthony Bourdain and Bill Nye had an awkward Muslim baby. So let's talk about that aspect and the representation. Are you aware of the representation, in terms of having this series and being who you are, and what's that like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. Like, I think it's really exciting. It's an exciting time because I feel like it's not just me. Like, I'm part of a crop of young immigrant, people of color, children of immigrants, or immigrants themselves. Like I feel like there's a new bumper crop of like young professionals, and not just in journalism, in so many different fields, who are getting a shot in a way that they hadn't been getting a shot before, like you too. But this feeling that the science documentary in particular, I mean, like, no knock on Attenborough or Bill Nye or any of those guys who I love. But that is a space where you feel like there's a kind of a voice of authority and of objectivity and of like the, omniscience, that kind of a science doc voice to kind of like, to me, it's fun to sort of disrupt that a little bit and to be a little goofier and a little, to not like, I'm not, Mr. Muslim that everything needs to be about being an Ismaili or something like that. But to be able to go into a pig farm and make a joke about something being halal or like, I think there's something kind of exciting about that it does matter who you see and whose voice you hear telling these kinds of stories. And also, like, we tried to really, and hopefully if we get to do more, to really include scientists of different backgrounds and of different experiences and who look differently and who speak differently. So that, because so often, and I've been getting, people have been sending me like videos of their kids watching the show, and it like, you can see that it really does make this subtle difference, and hopefully it's an investment that maybe in a generation we'll be able to see,
Yeah, and maybe it'll get people to be more curious about the world around them. Curiosity comes so naturally to you, but I think it'd be great if you could leave our audience with maybe some tips on how to be more curious.
I think we have gotten, well, two things. One is that I see my kids, I see your kids, I see all kids relentlessly asking questions, weird questions, brilliant questions. And I think we all have that in us. Like, I think that curiosity is in us. And I think that sort of as we grow older, we get used to settling for smaller and smaller answers to things. And we shouldn't. We don't need to. I also think that there is now, just because of smartphones and because of Google and because of all these things, you'll be walking down the street and you'll have a question, you'll think about something, and then you'll look it up and you'll get a one-line answer from the top 3 hits on Google, and that's like a curiosity killer. Like it's like, oh, here's the answer to your question, or at least some tiny piece of it that will enough to satisfy you. But to me, it's like, I think it's very valuable to push past that. I think the biggest questions are not ones that are going to be easily solved, are not ones that you're going to find answers to in a Google search bar, are not ones that, are even necessarily on the internet. I think that there's something to be said for listening to your own weird, often dumb questions and sort of turning the volume up on those. And letting yourself, giving yourself permission to follow those questions and to kind of until you get satisfied. Because sometimes there's a thing that one of my professors at Harvard said, and his name's Hisa Kuriyama, stuck with me. I never forget it. I think about it every day. And he says, it's not that 99% of the most interesting questions in the world haven't been answered. It's that 99% of the most interesting questions in the world haven't even been asked yet. That we, what we know, and what we even know we don't know, it's this tiny, 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 tiny fraction, infinitesimal fraction of what there is out there. And to me, the fun is that we get to kind of all look together out into the dark and kind of just hold hands and learn little bit by little bit so much more that because there is so much more to learn and to know.
Yeah, that's a really, really good way to look at it. I'm going to end off by asking you, what's next? What's next for you this year? I mean, you've done so much this year. What's going to happen in 2021? What are we looking ahead to for Latif Nasser?
I don't know. I became the host of the public radio show in the United States that I work at, called RadioLab, and we have some really exciting stuff there on the horizon. I got a bunch of stories I'm really, really excited about. The TV show, if they let me make more, I will. I got a few other projects that are sort of I'll keep a little bit mysterious, but I got some things cooking that I'm pretty excited about.
So there are people who know you and who know me, but most people don't know your wife, who is the real rock star of our family, Carly Mensch. Carly is a showrunner. She created a show on Netflix that maybe people in our audience have seen, Glow. It's called Glow. She was also a producer and writer on Orange is the New Black, Nurse Jackie, Weeds. And she comes from the Jewish community, so your children are half Muslim, half Jewish. They are going to solve the Middle East crisis. Talk to me about your relationship in terms of a partnership when it comes to your career and your two outlooks on life.
Yeah, we are. It's funny, like when people usually find out like we're a half Jewish, half Muslim couple. There's always like this question of like, how did it go with the parents? When did you first meet the parents? When the parents met? And actually we just clicked. Like it was very easy, and both sides of parents were really, really warm and receptive. And what you find out is, actually like, small immigrant type communities like kind of actually agree on a lot more than they disagree about, and there are just a million commonalities. I met my wife in when we were both in university. It was my first year, her final year, and we were interested in similar things. She was into playwriting. She was into just so many things that I was as well, and basically we've been not just, partners, but creative partners too since then. Like everything that I've ever made since my first year of university, she has looked at, she has read and proofread and edited and made better. And vice versa. Everything she's done since then, I've looked at and had a hand in too. And so we really she's my harshest editor. She is my biggest cheerleader, and vice versa. I am for her too. And I'm so lucky to have kind of someone like that. And I'm also so lucky, again, like the sort of stereotype of like a immigrant family of like, you have to marry, within this community. Again, our parents, my parents did not do that. And my life is so much richer for it, and the work that I make is richer for it too.
Well, me and Mom and Dad are your biggest fans, along with Carly, your wife, who also we should do a whole episode on because she's actually the coolest person in the family. But yeah, we're so proud of you. We're so proud of you. The community's so proud of you, and I honestly can't wait to see what's ahead for you. And I want to also thank Ismaili TV for giving me this opportunity to interview one of my favorite humans on this planet. So yeah, exciting things ahead. Love you, and I'll call you later. Okay. Ask us all the time. They're like, something fell on your end.
Yeah, my entire I just moved like 2 days ago, and so my sound booth is not fully set up. So I'm just gonna fix that. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Put it back up, and we'll redo that last part.
I think it's kind of funny, but okay.